How's it going, guys? And welcome to the showdown between the followers of Nagash, led by Ark in the Black, and the Skaven, who are going to be led by Tretch Craventail. So guys, this is actually the build I've really been wanting to do since I got my hands on the Tomb Kings. So I'm actually going to be using two of the Titans. So if you guys haven't seen the Titans, somewhat similar to Giants, but they're very slow. These guys are rocking 32 movement speed, 57 melee attack. They do have flame attacks as well as magic, so they can be pertinent in some matchups. 52 melee defense, but they also hit quite hard with 571. I don't think that's actually their base though. So that leads me on to my next point. So I really wanted to do a build with the Titans, but they also have these really cool supporting units. So these are the Necrotechs. They're basically like a hero unit, but they have a couple buffs. So they have the Wrath of the Creator, so all constructs nearby, so that could be Ushapti, that can be Tomb Scorpions, pretty much any of those construct style units are going to get this buff, melee attack and armor piercing damage. And I think that's why he's at the 571 instead of his, I think he's at 550 normally, can't remember. He does also have the Stone Shaper. So this gives him additional armor and also gives him 10% missile resist. So if you're facing off against Skaven, Globadiers, Slingers, pretty much, I think that would actually apply to artillery as well, like a Warp Lightning Cannon. Definitely going to be pretty helpful. And in his own right, he's not a terrible combatant. He does have 45 melee attack and 360 weapon damage with a nice bonus for his infantry. But the best thing about him and the Titan kind of working together is he does have the Restore ability. So he has 2 charges. It's a pretty big heal. Definitely makes a big difference because the Titan's already super tanky. I mean, 120 armor, 50 plus melee defense. He's definitely no joke. What's also really cool about the Titans is they do have the Spirit Leech, 1 charge of that and 2 charges of the Shem's Burning Gaze. So if you have the double Titan build like I have here with the Necrotechs and then Ark in the Black on top of that, you're going to be getting 3 Spirit Leeches right out of the gates. And that can be really nasty for burning down high value targets. So I am playing the Followers of Nagash, which is one of the custom factions. However, I feel like they're obviously, you have others that are just basically reskins of other factions minus certain units. But this one's actually pretty unique. You can bring Crypt Ghouls, which is incredibly cool. And it gives you a pretty hard-hitting frontline troop. I mean, you have Tomb Guards and things like this, but these guys are, have poison. They're also very cheap. I really like them as an inclusion in the front line against the Skaven. So I definitely think they'll be good against like Clan Rats and Censor Bears and things like that. So you can see the Titans going in with the Shem's Gaze, just the kind of the synchronized fire there. Definitely very cool. Aside from that, Skeleton Warriors in the front line, the Kepra Guard, more Skeleton Warriors, and Crypt Ghouls on the far side. So a little bit of a squishy front line, but again, I have 2 of these Titans who will definitely be laying a smackdown. On top of that, in the back, I do have 2 groups of Carrion, which I think are some of the best units on the roster. Fast, cheap, excellent harass units. If you had Globadiers, Warp Lightning Cannons, pretty much any of those pertinent threats, you get the Carrion and just swarm them. It's awesome. In the back, I do have 2 Direwolves. So this is another unit from the Vampire Counts roster that they can bring, so I can get Direwolves, which is cool, and also Hex Race. But yeah, definitely fun stuff. For my opponent, front line of Clan Rats. Some Clan Rat Spheres mixed in there, Skaven Slaves, actually. Double Plague Priest on the Plague Furnace, which is kind of that old school dirty Skaven build where they get into the front line and just kind of, not Fate of Buna, but what is that? Mortiscension style effect and just melts everything. He does have Tretch. Tretch is definitely going to be solid here. Very tough to kill. 70 melee defense. He has charged defense. He has some sneaky abilities to give him and his buddy stealth. Basically, my advice when facing off against Tretch, just leave him for last. He's not worth your time. Just like kill everything else and then just surround and just massacre Tretch later on. You can goon him, but he has charged defense and 70 melee defense. It takes forever. 2 of the Plague Furnaces definitely going to be tough with all the breath attacks, so definitely looking to roast my front line. He does have a Doom Wheel, Hell Pit Abomination for anti-large, backline to Censor Bears, and that's pretty much it. So guys, without further ado, let's get this Titan action on. Man, this is my favorite build I played since I started. It is just so absurd and fun just using these units with the Necrotechs. You really kind of feel that synergy, giving them that fat armor, 120 armor. They're no joke for sure. Over here, the Doom Wheel does kind of collide into my Crypt Ghouls and actually kill 7 models in that one charge. Definitely pretty powerful. You can see the Hell Pit Abominations coming in, a nice breath attack as well. But here comes King Kong versus Godzilla. Just look how slow he marches in. And hopefully he'll shoot some lasers for you guys. But you can see that this Plague Priest here, this kind of wonky attack animation is doing his thing. But the Titan definitely is going to lay a weapon on him. And he also can cast Spirit Leech. So like I said, he's going to cast Spirit Leech right here, kind of, apply some damage. And he's really putting a dent in that Plague Priest right there, which is great. On the other side, you can see the Crypt Ghouls are kind of chewing through the troops. I do have my other Titan right here who's going to be going after the Doom Wheel. So I'm just using the Titans to fend off the enemy monsters. And of course, the Necrotechs are going to be supporting them on the ground. So man, those are just beautiful models, man. They look so incredibly cool. And this Doom Wheel just pales in comparison to this giant Titan. Look at it. Such a cool unit. And you can see the Carrion flying overhead. Another thing that's very good in the Skaven matchup, Carrion are good, but the Crypt Ghouls. So the Crypt Ghouls hit really hard against lightly armored troops. So I think that was something my opponent may not have been expecting. Personally, my 2 cents, if you're playing the Skaven against the Tomb Kings, I recommend bringing Stormvermin in the front line with a Sword and Shield, and then you can mix in some Halberds. And it's very tough for like Crypt Ghouls and Tomb Guard and pretty much any Tomb King options to really get through your front line, aside from Ushapti. So in the back, you can see the Hell Pit Abomination putting a bit of a dent in the Kepra Guard. So I do drop the Liber Mortis to give them 44% physical resist, and I do hit my tier 1 of Realm of Souls. On the other side, you can see the Titan is just, King Kong and Godzilla over here. I just really wanted to use its lasers. That's like the coolest animation by far. And it actually does use its lasers in melee. It's not like just a ranged attack. I mean, it obviously doesn't have ranged attacks, but it does have that really cool kind of laser attack there. So in the back, the Kepler Guard actually putting a huge dent in this Hell Pit Abomination. So I've been kind of buffing them as much as I can with that physical resist from Arc in the Black. And you can see my evil Haggard Necromancer over here riding his Death Chariot and just going in on some of these Skaven. I think I actually go for the Sensor Bears here in a moment, but the main thing when you're using this build is obviously to keep the Necrotex next to the HIEROTITAN. Those, that 10 armor and also the other resistances you get really kind of add up. And you can see that Tretch is going to be stay here, I'll get help. So it gives him leadership and also I think apply stock under some circumstances. So now we're going to have the HIEROTITAN just kind of stomping on some rats here. You can see they're getting crushed, but I'm pretty sure I end up switching him onto, just look at that stomp, just sending those guys flying into the Shadow Realm. In the back, Arkin is just trying to stay away from big threats, just riding around. You can see that Fate Buna from Arc in the Black is going to be going down on those Plague Monk Sensor Bears and doing some pretty substantial damage, and they're terrified now from this big Titan right here who's just stomping the yard, definitely having a good time. But Tretch and his Plague Furnace in the back here are able to kind of push off some of my skeletons, or not push them off, they obviously can't route, but he's able to break their leadership, and they'll probably be crumbling here in just a moment. And you can see that big aura effect over here in the middle is just going to be going down from the Plague Furnaces. Essentially, it's just like a Mortis Engine style effect. But I do have the Tomb Blade of Arkin. So this is an item that's available to Arc in the Black. Definitely going to be useful, I guess, if I end up fighting this Hell Pit Abomination. But it heals all nearby troops, including Construct, so it's not like the lower net Kara. I do get the Ushopti summon finally with my Realm of Souls tier 3, and you can see the slow-mo cleave on those rats just being cut asunder and sent into into another dimension here. And yeah, the Tomb Kings have some really cool attack animations. So they're getting in there and just getting into those rats. The Sensor Bear is obviously very squishy, and they're going to suffer against the anti-infantry of these Ushopti. The Libra Mortis is going to be going down right here. This is obviously a big kind of epicenter of this battle right here. So the Titans I've been healing nonstop with the Restore from the Cryptex, or not Cryptex, that's Warhammer 40,000 from the, what do they call it, Necrotex, that's right. So I've been using that every chance I get, and you can see the double Titan beatdown. So these guys are just having a, just a massive monster Kaiju fight over here with these, the Hell Pit Abomination. There's the laser right into that guy, definitely very cool. You can see his head's glitching out as he's doing it. It's ridiculous looking. But the Titans here putting up a pretty good fight. And the Hell Pit Abomination obviously is an anti-large entity. Puts in a pretty hard hit there. But of course having the two Titans here is very overpowering, plus the Necrotech giving him a much higher armor value. So even when units do have armor-piercing attacks, and there goes the laser again, hopefully you guys can find that. So for example, this guy's 350 armor-piercing damage, which will ignore armor, but there's still another 150 that has to go through armor. So even in a matchup where there are two armor-piercing troops fighting, having that extra armor does help. So you can see the Restore is going to be going down. You can see his health going up pretty rapidly here, giving him another 200-300 HP. Actually, I haven't done any testing to really see what the maximum amount is, but it looks like it's about 400 or 500 HP, which definitely is not bad. So the Hell Pit Abomination is getting pretty low, but the Skaven do have some troops rallying here. Arc in the Black has just been riding dirty through, whatever Skaven are left, and I do have the Crypt Ghouls kind of fighting here and fending off the low-tier troops. But he does have two Plague Furnaces, so he has a Doom Wheel, two Plague Furnaces. He also has a Hell Pit Abomination that's pretty much done for. You can see the Titans are just laying an absolute whooping on that guy. Aside from that, let's take an overarching look at the battlefield. So a big mistake on my part, I accidentally chased these Clanrat Spears off into the borders of the map using these Crypt Ghouls, so they'll be coming back to help, but definitely a very costly mistake, because that's a lot of units right there. You can see this guy down here, my Crypt, no, okay, gotta get that right, that Necrotech with his whip. I wonder if he actually uses it. Looks like he's just kind of standing there watching this guy's fight, so hopefully he gets involved here in a moment. But the two Titans just go stomp in the yard on this Plague Priest. He doesn't really have the stopping power to get these guys. I mean, in this whole game, they've been fighting, and fighting Hell Pit Abominations and Spears. And with those two Necrotechs and the 4 heals between them, I mean, these Titans have taken no damage. So definitely putting in some serious work. I don't know. I think that the Sphinxes, the Necro Sphinxes, would have been a little bit stronger, because with their anti-large, they would have just stomped all over the Hell Pits. But the Spirit Leeches were very useful. I was able to use those, and the Shem's Burning Gazes. So maybe there would be circumstances in which you would have a HIEROTITAN fighting in the main line. So maybe get one, HIEROTITAN or HIEROTITAN. I gotta say that right. But anyways, you get one Titan in the main line, and then you get a Necro Sphinx kind of roaming and dealing with the large targets. I think that could be a decent little synergy with the Necrotex there. So the Titans are just kind of laser zapping some of these rats here. You can see the Plague Priest is coming back to get a little bit more of this action. He's definitely in the wrong neighborhood. These guys are so this Titan's just physically pushing him back, just getting this big rickety contraption out of here. But it looks like, what is that? Is that a single? What spell's going on right there? Looks like maybe another Shem's Burning Gaze or something. I can't recall. And I think the Doom Wheel, there was a moment I missed. So there was a really good Doom Wheel. If you guys want, this battle actually took place in my stream, but there's a moment where the Doom Wheel's running and he gets sniped by a Shem's Burning Gaze, which was really awesome. But you can also see the Libra Mortis is going to be going down right here, giving me that 44%. So substantial. And I really think that If you look at all the Tomb King's Lords, you can see a nice breath attack going down there from the Furnace. Of all the Tomb King's Lords, I think Ark in the Black is probably the most competitive. The Tomb Blade is really good. His passive ability of 44% physical resist is incredibly powerful. He does also have Fate of Buna and Spirit Leech, traditionally very good abilities. He's just a very good, solid, consistent Lord. Like, he's going to be good in most matchups. And his Chariot does work. I mean, 73 kills, and it looks really cool. You can see he's just putting moves on this Hellpit Abomination, who has nowhere near the speed to catch him, because he's rocking 84 speed. He's actually faster on the Chariot than he is on the horse, which is pretty neat. So the Titans are pretty slow, obviously not able to catch a whole lot. You can see Arkin's just going to be riding down some rats here in a moment, probably going for some of these clan rats who are broken. Definitely, you know, when a battle's really close like this, guys, I would definitely recommend grabbing your Lord and just riding down some of these routing units and keeping them off the battlefield. You can see right here, he's just going in and his horse is just cleaving over those Skaven. Looks like he got another 4 or 5 kills right there, which is pretty good. So we'll go ahead and fast forward a little bit. You can see the Titans are just kind of, you know, I can't really catch much, so I'm just cleaning up as much as I can. I do get those Crypt Ghouls back, who are obviously taking a huge beating, but they apply poison to all this stuff. So now it's slow, and the Titans are actually going to be able to kind of waddle over here. And look how slow. He just like trudge forward. You can see another Shem's Burning Gaze is going to roast into those guys, and it's looking okay for this Skaven. The bounce power is just barely in my favor. They do have Tretch coming back, but honestly, those two Titans, like, even if you took everything else I had out of the equation, get rid of Arkin, get rid of the Necrotex, I don't know if you would have the stopping power to deal with these two Titans. So there you can see a big explosion ability is going to be going down. It looks like some sort of a Verminous Valor. Is that what that was? Does Tretch actually have that? Maybe he does. But of course, you have Ark in the Black coming in. He does cause fear, and he's able to just shatter and just run these guys over, which makes him even more susceptible to the terror routing there. So Hellpit Abomination does explode. A bunch of little rats come out with their spears, but honestly, against 120 armor on these Titans, plus really high melee defense, they're not going to be able to do a whole lot. So that's going to be it, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed the build. This was kind of something I'd been theory crafting with, like, in my mind since it came out, and I was always, like, too hesitant to try it. I was kind of like, oh, it's just gimmicky. But on that same note, I did get kind of lucky that he didn't bring, like, Poison One Gladiators and Warp Lightning Cannons, which, when I play against Tomb Kings, I bring a front line of Storm Vermin, so I bring, like, 3 or 4 probably, like, 5 Storm Vermin, 2 or 3 with shields, and then also 2 Halberds. I bring double Warp Lightning Cannon, I guard those with heavy spears, and I just kind of sit there and, like, had he brought that type of a build, it would have been interesting. Granted, the Titans would have smashed on Storm Vermin pretty effectively with their AP, but I think that, you know, having more of that anti-large fire would have been pretty punishing. But on that same note, like, this build wasn't bad. Like, the double plague furnace is a really nasty thing. It's more for, like, melting infantry and things like that. But I don't know. I feel like it's kind of similar to the vampire counts, in which you don't want to bring low-tier troops against them because everything causes fear. You know, that can become an issue. But had he also brought the double Warp Lightning Cannon and the Globadiers, I think I would have had answers. I had the Carrion and the Hounds, who could have just swarmed and been really obnoxious and probably routed off some of those cannon crews with the help of Ark in the Black. So there's some give and take. I don't think that this build by any stretch is, like, super competitive, but I think it is viable. It can work. A little bit of tinkering for each matchup, but obviously there are some matchups in which you probably don't want to bring this. Like, if you're playing Empire, don't do it. It's going to be horrible. Their handgunners and cannons will take you down. Same with Dwarves and Thunders. Skaven, it's still a little bit risky, but it ended up being, you know, working out. But I look forward to seeing how people use these. I don't really know their place. I still like the Necrosphinxes quite a bit more, because at 32 speed, if you're playing in a really, like, heated match, right, and they're just kiting around, like, you're just going to be waddling, being useless. Whereas the Necrosphinx, with its, like, 68 speed, can really chase people down and make a huge difference. So there's some give and take there. So very well played, my opponent Ants. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Followers of Nagash versus Clan Rictus showdown. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.